Imagine a film that changed how theater sells seats, forced Hollywood to rethink 3D, and sent entire audiences out of the room arguing about whether a spectacle can carry a story. Avatar did all of that. Today I explain exactly how James Cameron built a cinematic experience that still divides viewers, what it gets absolutely right, where it fails, and why it still matters, 15 plus years after release.
Outstanding.
This isn't a love letter to visual effects, nor is it a hit piece. I'll break the movie down. Story, characters, themes, technical innovations, cultural impact, and a final clear verdict you can actually use if you are deciding whether to watch or rewatch it. So let's enjoy cinema.
It's your fault.
I need your help.
Quick refresher, what happens and why it matters. Avatar follows paraplegic Marine Jake Sully, who leaves Earth to operate an avatar, a genetically engineered Na'vi body on Pandora, tasked by human corporate military forces to infiltrate the indigenous Na'vi and secure a valuable mineral. Jake experiences a moral conversion. He chooses to protect Pandora over his human employers. The plot beats are familiar. Outsiders, infiltrates, learns, converts, returns as defender, but the setting, the stakes, and the execution turn a familiar template into an immersive argument about empire, ecology, and embodiment. Why the basic plot matters? The familiarity is deliberate. Cameron uses a mythic structure to make the world building and technical craft the real protagonist. If the story feels borrowed, it's because Cameron wanted the audience to focus on how we experience Pandora, not on reinventing story beats from scratch.
You should not be here. Go back.
Visuals and technical achievement, the movie's strongest case. If Avatar's headline is spectacle, the footnote is craft. Cameron and his team fused motion capture performance with cutting-edge digital rendering and a custom 3D camera system to create lifelike CG characters that still read as performances rather than hollow puppets. The world of Pandora, its bioluminescent flora, floating mountains, and creatures was not an afterthought. It's the primary emotional engine. The film asks us to feel that environment as a living thing. That worked in theaters in a way home viewing couldn't replicate for years. Technically, Avatar pushed frame rate and depth of field experiments in 3D, and it advanced facial capture systems that became industry standards. That investment paid off. Audiences repeatedly cited the 3D immersion as the movie's main draw. The craftsmanship is precise enough that you can pause almost any frame and appreciate the layered detail, textures, light, and the scale, and how those choices put you in Jake's body. The result? A sensory argument in favor of cinema as an embodied experience.
I want you to learn from the inside. I want you to gain their trust.
Performances and characters, earnest but thin in places. On performance, Avatar is interestingly uneven. Sam Worthington's Jake Sully is a deliberately blank slate early on, so the audience can inhabit him. When Jake comes alive, it's Zoe Saldana's Neytiri who supplies the emotional gravity and cultural specificity. Stephen Lang's colonial courage is a functional antagonist, effective as a relentless force but largely a one-note representation of militarized corporate power. Where the film earns criticism is in character depth. Secondary players stay on archetype, corporate exec, spiritual leader, sympathetic scientist, rather than fully rounded humans. That's not accidental. Cameron wants the Na'vi as a moral mirror, not a sociological study. The trade-off is emotional clarity over complexity. The stakes feel immediate, but some human motivations, especially corporate ones, are underexplored.
Avatars. They're grown from human DNA, mixed with DNA of the natives.
Storytelling and script, derivative structure, but purposeful choices. One central critique remains unavoidable. Avatar borrows liberally from older narratives, Dances with Wolves, Pocahontas, and classic colonial reversal stories. But critics should distinguish between plagiarism and structural homage. Cameron adopts a mythic outsider becomes insider arc because it simplifies the moral argument. The invader recognizes the wrongness of conquest and chooses the other side, where the script trips is in exposition. Info dumps about Pandora's biology and the Avatar program occasionally stall momentum. The human dialogue can be clunky. It's functional rather than lyrical. But in Cameron's design, dialogue is scaffold. It serves the world, enabling the film's visuals and mise-en-scène to do most of the emoting.
They are very hard to kill.
This is why we're here. Because this little gray rock sells for 20 million a kilo.
Themes, colonialism, environmentalism, embodiment. What elevates Avatar above pure spectacle is its thematic clarity. The film is an environmentalist parable, resource extraction as sacrilege. It's also a critique of colonial entitlement, technology and money used to uproot and extract life. Cameron frames Pandora's spiritual connection, Ava, as a literalized ecology. Living systems are networked and responsive. There is also a compelling interrogation of embodiment and identity. Jake's transfer into Na'vi body forces questions. What makes us human? Is personhood a set of memories, a body, or relationships? The Avatar concept lets the film stage identity as reversible, mutable, and ethical. Those philosophical stakes matter, and they are expressed through action more than through speech.
You should see your faces.
We have an indigenous population called the Na'vi.
Reception, awards, and box office. The commercial and institutional response. Avatar was not only a visual phenomenon, but a commercial one. It grossed approximately $2.92 billion worldwide, becoming the highest grossing film of all time for the period and driving a renewed industry focus on event filmmaking and 3D releases. The film also received substantial industry recognition. It earned 9 Academy Award nominations and won 3 Oscars. Best Art Direction, Best Cinematography, and Best Visual Effects, acknowledging both its technical innovation and aesthetic design. Critically, the film landed a strong reception. Many reviewers praised the technical achievement and immersive world building, while noting the story's familiar bones. Rotten Tomatoes aggregates the critical consensus at roughly 81%, reflecting a broadly positive critical stance with noted caveats.
You are not in Kansas anymore. You are on Pandora.
Cultural legacy, influence beyond box office. Beyond dollars and trophies, Avatar changed several things. It revived 3D as a tentpole selling point, accelerated motion capture investment across studios, and normalized the idea that a filmmaker could spend a decade inventing technology for a single film. It also proved there is a huge market for immersive, constructed worlds, something that reshaped franchise thinking and streaming investments afterward. However, the film also became a lightning rod for debates. Cultural appropriation versus representation, the ethics of borrowing indigenous motifs, and whether blockbuster cinema should shoulder political arguments at all. Those conversations expanded the film's footprint beyond entertainment into cultural critique.
I told myself I can pass any test a man can pass. All I ever wanted was a single thing worth fighting for.
Problems and critiques, unpacking the shortcomings. If you care about narrative originality, Avatar is going to frustrate you. Its characters often serve themes rather than themselves, and the human villains are occasionally cartoonish. The film's messaging can feel heavy-handed, environmental catastrophe as moral black and white, and that bluntness undercuts subtlety. There is also an argument about the film's politics. Does it romanticize a noble savage myth? Some critics say yes, arguing that the Na'vi are idealized simplifications used to make Western guilt feel manageable. That criticism is valid. The film leans into archetype to make a cinematic point, and that simplification has costs.
be making a difference.
Why Avatar still matters, a balanced assessment. So, where does that leave us? Avatar matters because it demonstrates cinema's power to create empathic experiences. It is a technical milestone and a persuasive argument for immersive storytelling. Its weaknesses are structural and moral. Derivative plotting, occasional dialogue clumsiness, and the ethical thinness of some representations. If you watch films for world building and visual spectacle with a side of ecological and anti-colonial messaging, Avatar remains essential. If you prioritize narrative novelty or deep character study, you'll be more frustrated. Both reactions are legitimate.
You Jake Sully? I'd like to talk to you about a fresh start on a new world.
Final verdict: who should watch and why? Watch Avatar if you want to experience the landmark of visual filmmaking and you enjoy big idea mythic storytelling. See it in the best format you can. Ideally theoretically or on a high quality 4K screen with proper depth if available. Skip or postpone if you demand subtle character work and radical narrative originality above spectacle. My bottom line: Avatar is an imperfect masterpiece. Imperfect because it chooses spectacle and moral clarity over nuance. A masterpiece because of how successfully it reimagines scale, empathy, and the medium sensory possibilities.
Haven't gotten lost in the woods, have you?
Did you forget what team you're playing for?
If you found this useful, press like, subscribe, and let me know in the comments, did Avatar convince you emotionally or did the story hold it back? I read every thoughtful response and will use them to shape the next breakdown. Until next time, don't forget to enjoy cinema.